Ugh.
I kill everything I've ever loved. Oh.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about Abigail. After a group of criminals kidnap the ballerina daughter of a powerful underworld figure, they retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they're locked inside with no normal little girl. Radio Silence has been the filmmaking duo that has remained on my radar since their segment in the horror anthology VHS. Now, for my personal preference, 103198 happened to be my favorite segment amongst the 6 other found footage stories, and I've always championed to see what Radio Silence was capable of doing next. Since then, they've graced the horror community with such hits as Ready or Not, Scream 2022, and Scream 6. And once I heard the announcement that they were teaming up with Melissa Barrera once again, and it was going to be some sort of universal monster picture of some sorts, I was all in. Finally getting the chance to check this out, this was absolutely one of the most wickedly entertaining and outrageously fun vampire flicks that I've had the pleasure of experiencing on the big screen in a very long time. Now, surprisingly, the first half of this movie kind of plays out like Reservoir Dogs meets The Usual Suspects, while the later half of the film plays out like Fright Night meets Reverse Ready or Not. And in most cases where I'm really looking forward to seeing the antagonist in these kind of movies, I was more invested with our main ragtag team of misfits. With the script penned by Stephen Shields and Guy Busick, I love the way the characters were written here. Each of our ensemble cast had the opportunity to add a little of their own flavor and color to each of these criminals, who you are supposed to dislike for their actions, but somehow in the first 20 minutes, you fall in love with them. And especially with the way that Melissa Barrera just kind of goes around the room and reads each and every one of their personalities and possible history. I very much admired how that exposition was handled, how it was executed, giving us a breakdown of each and every single one of these characters, their strengths and weaknesses, and how their dynamic is probably going to work against them when shit hits the fan. And when shit does hit the fan, they are unexpectedly likable, that I was rooting for each and every one of them to survive, even though we know people are going to die. Getting into some of the talent here, starting off with the late Angus Cloud. I believe this was the very last movie he did before his unfortunate passing of last year. He is, to my knowledge, the second out of 3 actors of Euphoria that has done horror movies of the year 2024. Cloud's real-life personality needs no acting skills because he is a genuinely cool dude. There's actually one moment that is worth mentioning, that he delivers a scare and a comic relief all in one breath. I ended up laughing myself silly. Kevin Durant, who has been seen in numerous amount of projects with various roles, is considered the muscle of the group. There's this ongoing joke with how dim-witted he is amongst others, and it has earned him a lot of priceless moments with comedic timing. And one of the traits that have made him my personal favorite is how unexpectedly considerate and friendly he could be. Like, he looks like this big henchman, but in the end of the day, he's a really big softie. He's like a teddy bear. We also got Katherine Newton, who has been climbing the Hollywood ladder since her recent inclusion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but personally, I love when she always took stage in horror ever since her appearance in Paranormal Activity 4. She's also appeared in CW's Supernatural, she was the breakout lead in Freaky, and I still gotta check out Lisa Frankenstein, because I heard that one was pretty good. Considering that she is the 3rd female lead, she could be classified as a dumb blonde, but surprisingly, she was the knowledgeable one here. Except for that scene with onions. She's a rebellious hacker with a quick bite to her attitude, and she gives a good amount of laughs, as well as finding the opportunities to add Scream Queen to her resume. Dan Stevens is playing a much different character than he did in Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, and I am living for it. There is a lot of the humor that you'll get out of him, which are frustrations, F-bombs, and some of the one-liners that he dishes out, as well as him attempting to be the alpha amongst the rest of the crew. When he butts heads with Melissa Barrera or even the Abigail character, he is just the douchebag that you want to hate, yet you root for him. I have not seen him chew up the scenery since his role in The Guest, and personally, I think this might be my favorite role of his amongst the rest of his filmography by far. Melissa Barrera is the star, and she is no stranger when it comes to working with Radio Silence. I think they make a pretty great team with what they had achieved in Scream 5 and 6, and they get to build more upon that here. Her character Joey has many layers to her that are slowly revealed throughout the story, and I think that makes the audience relate to her more. They get to latch onto her over everyone else in the group. Her more subtle interactions with Abigail are some of the most strongest components that really humanizes both protagonists and antagonists. And I also give Barrera props for asking the tough questions and also putting up a much bigger fight here as far as stunts go than she did with Ghostface. Last but not least, Alicia Weir as our titular vampire antagonist, Abigail. Now, I have not seen any of the work that she has done before, not even the Matilda Netflix movie, but I can tell you that she has so much potential and so much promise in her future in this industry. Now, in the first act, you really buy into that innocence, that crocodile tears, but even though she is capable of taking out the entire ensemble with a snap of her finger, she really takes her time in toying with them all that it really adds to the suspense. Once her demeanor flips, her threats and strengths are put at such graceful and primal display that she is a ballerina prey that could just dance her way around the room instead of flying across it. And I appreciate a lot of the stunt work, a lot of the choreography that Weir was able to accomplish on her own. She basically had her stunt double on paid vacation. The set design for the mansion really reminded me of Ready or Not and was giving me more of a vibe of 90s Dark Castle Productions. Some of the rules and lore of vampirism, I love how they stuck it close to the original roots, as well as how people turn into vampires and how to kill a vampire with a few clever twists and turns. Now, my biggest gripe about the movie is the first 45 minutes, and that is primarily has to do with how this movie was marketed versus how this movie should have been experienced. The narrative for the first half plays it very coy with what's happening, with what's trying to kill them, and they throw around suggestions that really fill out that runtime between transitioning of Act 1 to Act 2 up until Abigail reveals her true nature. This is going to make it a very tough rewatch because you're basically watching these characters play catch up with the audience and what you already know. Lastly, and I'm going to try and avoid spoilers, but there is a cameo at the very end of this movie that was poorly executed in my opinion, and no diss to the actor, maybe I was expecting more, but his whole performance was an entirely different kind of movie. Overall, this is one of those rare gems in the vampire genre that balances both horror and comedic elements very well, especially when the movie is trying to go for a joke and never loses its edge. Personally, I think the people who are going to have the best experience of this movie are people who have no context of what this movie is about, have not seen the trailer at all. I mean, it's kind of like running into someone who hasn't seen From Dusk Till Dawn and knows that it's a vampire flick. That third act, though, it really goes for broke in a bloodbath, but personally, and in my opinion, I think that Ready or Not is still Radio Silence's best film. Alright guys, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out while it's still in theaters. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'm Jaren Ugbanawag. Look forward to more reviews, and I will see you guys at the theater. Take care.